First things first. First things first. How's everybody here? You guys enjoying the night?
Good.
Bear with me. You guys bear with me as I have everything on some paper and some phone, so you know. So first question I have is for Solitair. So in one of your music tracks, Easy to Slip, you speak on how quick things can go left when you're in the wrong environment. That reality still hits hard today. When you're working with youth who are living that pressure daily, how do you bring that message to life in a way that helps them see they still have a choice, even when it feels like the streets already made it for them?
The reality that I bring to this situation in the work that I do with youth, I think it's important to empower them with the understanding that they have choices every day that they have to make in their lives. Whenever I work with a young person, I emphasize, number one, that I'm not a parent, I'm not a guardian, I'm not a teacher. I'm literally somebody that cares about their health, their safety, their well-being, and try to instill an understanding of you have to find value in who you are and find a purpose. And you're not going to know that right away, but there's an opportunity to learn that by the choices that you make, And I give them the context of the work that I do in jails and in prisons, working with incarcerated individuals. And so often, my experience working in those environments, you realize that it's only in those moments that they realize or recognize the error in the choices that they made because of who they thought they were at the time, what they were being influenced by at the time, and they didn't really have the opportunity to see anything different. In the work that we do, I work with an organization called the Forgiveness Project. We try to start from a place where we say everybody's doing the best they can with what they have, what they know at the time. If you don't have the information, you're not going to be able to do something better. So the first thing I try to present to them is I say, now that I'm a part of your life, this is an opportunity for you to choose something different. You have experienced what you've experienced to this point, which has led you to where you are today. The reason that we're in front of each other is because there are people who care about you and recognize that you are in a situation that's taking you on a path that's going to be detrimental to your freedom and your safety. So you now have a choice to make. And that choice is a grown-up choice that nobody can make for you. I'm only providing perspective. And I say that, and I really say to them, and I present it in a non-judgmental way, but you have to understand that there are going to be repercussions to choices that you make. If you want to continue where you are and surrounded by the people that you're with, that's going to lead you to this, guaranteed. And I can give you countless examples. And I ask them, do you know of anybody who's in a situation where they know somebody who has lost their lives or has gone to jail? And they always do, especially when they're in those ways. So I say, is that something that you want for yourself? They'll think about it, especially depending on their age, they might not necessarily have a lot of perspective on what the alternatives are, right? So, but then I also don't want to try to say that I'm gonna make that choice for you. You have to. It's something that they have to come to an understanding on their own, and you just have to provide them with the options and not expectations, but provide examples of inspiration. That's why when you talk about things like representation matters, it also matters for young people. They need to see representation of success in a different path than where they are, because a lot of times it's in a situation where it's very much they eat what they kill. There's not a lot of money, there's not a lot of guidance. So I always try to paint a picture of opportunity and try to bring them to it. And the reality of it is some of them are not ready to make that choice. Some of them are still, there's other issues, whether it's learning disabilities or lack of support or lack of positive role models in their immediate circle. Because again, a lot of times, the time that I'm spending with this individual compared to the time that they have to live the rest of their life, going to school, being with their friends, being with their family, is very minute. So the window of opportunity to have that conversation is very short. So you have to show them that there's different choices that are going to take you one way or the other, and what are you prepared to do? And really, that's at the crux of the work that I do. Yeah.
Thank you for that. This next question here is for Mr. Warren Clarke, Dr. Warren Clarke. So, you funded impactful programs like ACMP and Barbershop Talk series. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced getting them off the ground, and what advice would you give to a young professional trying to do community-based work but feeling blocked by lack of funding, support, or recognition?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Really good panelists before my fellow colleagues here are on. So just shout out to the whole organizers of today. So really want to acknowledge that. So folks know the acronym ACMP. It stands for the Afro-Caribbean Mentorship Program, and it's a program that started in 2018 in Ottawa. And its purpose was to go into, or what we still do, we go into secondary and post-secondary education spaces, and we work with Afro-Caribbean Black young people. And it's a way to increase their social capital, which I'm going to explain what that is in a moment, but more or less create opportunities of networking and opportunities, particularly in post-secondary spaces. You know, what does it mean to apply for a university, right? Many people will say, well, I'm going to go to U of T, right? Which people would probably say, well, that's a really popular school, or that's one of the best schools in Canada, correct? Show of hands quickly. All right, check this out. But there's two things I want folks to consider. Number one, for a graduate student, a first-year graduate student, you got to consider the supervisor you're going to be working with. If you have a horrible supervisor, your graduate school experience will be horrible. Number two, if you're not considering the department you're going into, for example, if you're looking at Black masculinities like myself, and that department does no work in Black masculinities, you're probably going to have a hard time connecting with a supervisor and a department to support your work. So it's not about the school. There's more intricate details that you need to consider before you even think about graduate school or the school you're going to go to. All right? Now let's go back to that concept of social capital. You ready? You ready? There you go. I know you're excited. Here we go. So this comes out of the work of Pierre Bourdieu. He's a French sociologist. And Pierre Bourdieu, as I understand social capital, is you increase your understanding in a particular area of knowledge based on the community of people around you. So for example, you are sitting with me and other panelists, you are raising your social capital on the idea or the topic area of youth empowerment. Make sense? Now here is the reality for many Black young people. Their social capital in the area of, say, employment, education is low because they're not connected to a network in comparison to many young people who happen to be white or of a higher or middle class socioeconomic background who is receiving this information at the dinner table. For example, hey, Billy, oh, you need to get into a law program? Oh, don't worry. My colleague, John, he's the head lawyer at downtown we're going to make up a name here. Law Pros. So, we're going to get you an internship, okay, for like 2 hours a week, right, where you can go with John, okay? That young person, Billy, who happens to be white, and his father or mother who's connected to somebody is going to increase their social capital in the area of law. While a Black young person, who you may connect them to somebody, they may not know what to do with that because they don't have the network in proximity so they can receive that knowledge. Make sense? All right, so now that you understand that, that's exactly what the ACMP does. We then create the network or the connection to create opportunities in the way that we can raise the social capital of young people in the area of financial literacy, how to apply for graduate school, mental health awareness campaigns that we do, or even our More Than Networking event that we're hosting this year in Winnipeg in partnership with RBC. Now, the whole point of that is to not only get the opportunities, but to strengthen young people. There's one thing to say the door is open, but it doesn't mean everyone can access the door. So we have to be mindful of how we provide opportunities, right? And when we think about how we know ourselves, everything is socially constructed. So if it's socially constructed, then we can construct new understanding or understanding for young people. So, sorry, that was long.
No, it's all right.
You want more? You want more?
Finish it off.
I know you want more. Look at you smiling.
it.
Here we go. So to answer your question, sorry, I don't mean to be picking on you. You're at the front row, so that's what you get. So to give more context of on the question, so the challenge that I experienced, let the truth be told, the ACMP, the barbershop talk, I didn't mean to start a non-for-profit organization. I was in graduate school, and it just so happened that I was the only male black graduate school student in the sociology department at Carleton University. So I had students coming up to me and literally doing this. You're real? Oh my gosh. A black male graduate student? Doing a PhD? No way. So that turned into the first How to Get into Grad School program at Carleton University. And I'm thinking only 10 students are going to show up. To my surprise, we had 80 students show up. We had mothers bring their sons. We had other professors at different universities hear about this thing, and I had no clue. So the demand was high. So instead of saying, okay, well, mic drop, we're done, we decided to start thinking about different programs and different initiatives that we can incorporate under the ACMP. Now, in saying that, because it was a hot topic and in demand for many black community members in Ottawa at the time, it was not a hot topic for many white administration staff at the university. It wasn't something that was perceived to be important enough to fund, and I almost gave up. I almost said, I didn't come here to open a non-for-profit. I came here for my doctorate, and I'm at that point. And it just so happened that at my breaking point, the president of the university on his way out gifted the ACMP $100,000 to do the work. Now, you may say that, oh, that's a success, but hold on, folks. $100,000 over 2 years may be great, but if over 5 or 10 years, that's not a lot of money, okay? So the hurdle for the ACMP, the barbershop talk, has always been funding. And it's been very beneficial for us to work with community partners, such as Royal Bank of Canada, Scotiabank, TD Bank, but it's always a hustle, okay? In terms of your last question, sorry I'm so long-winded, I talk a lot, I'm sorry. For young people come up to me and say that they're being challenged to open up their own non-for-profit organizations, or they're facing challenge with funding, my first go-to is saying to them is partner with other organizations, okay? That is the first thing I say. If you're not doing that, then that's something you want to consider. Now, to wrap this all up, the reason I say that is because a lot of us are doing the same work anyways. A lot of us here are working with young people. But one thing that we're missing, particularly in black communities, and I say black plurally because there's the complexity of blackness, is that we're not willing to work together on the same initiative, which makes no sense. You want me to say it one more time? Oh, sorry. We're not willing to work together on the same initiatives that we're doing already. It makes no sense, right? If I'm doing a financial literacy program, and I know my friend here is a financial advisor, and he's running his own organization, why am I not knocking his door? Why are we not doing that? The problem is people want ownership in non-for-profit work. It doesn't make sense. The work is not for you. The work is for community. So how dare us take off these CEO and executive director positions and highlight what we're doing and collect all these awards, and we're not giving to community? That doesn't make any sense. So to wrap this all up is to say, and it was been said in previous panels, it's about working together. But the problem in our Black communities is we don't know how to work together. It's not a bad thing. It's a thing that we need to consider about who we are, what Blackness really means, and how complex the idea of Blackness is. Because someone sitting beside you who may look Black, they may not consider themselves Black. They may consider themselves based on their ethnicity. And that's a whole different reality. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Give it up. All right. Jedadiah.
Jedadiah.
How do you say it?
Jedadiah.
Jedadiah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. All right, so what does being a community ambassador at C.R.I.B mean to you, and how do you use your story to connect with survivors and youth?
Well, it means to me that, the first thing that stands out to me about the C.R.I.B is that we're doing actual Black research from Black people for Black people, right? We only started doing research, I only started doing research in Canada like 2019 after George Floyd for Black research. So there's no specific based data for our community. We only started doing it now. So we're kind of on the frontier for that.
Yeah.
So, but,
Yeah, hold the mic.
oh, sorry. I'm a hand talker, so I'm not used to talking with microphones, so I apologize. But yeah, like we're the frontier for Black research, specifically for us to help our community. So I feel good in that. And I also like talking, like it makes me communicate with kids and talk to kids and maybe kids that I wouldn't, because we're in our day-to-day, we don't see people that we're gonna talk to on the regular, right? But because of this and because of the position, it puts me in a position specifically because of me and what I know and where I've been, it can make me reach the people that maybe not been reached before. So I like it because it's almost like bridging a gap for the research for the people that wouldn't be able to usually get to it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's good, man. I appreciate it. Give it up for him. Question here for Deshawn. So you work with C.R.I.B, and it isn't just a program. It's a lifeline for people trying to survive and heal. From your perspective, what's the most powerful part of showing up for someone, not just as a professional, but as someone who's walked the same road?
With Thrive, can you repeat the last part of the question?
So not just as a professional, but as someone who's walked the same road, what's the most powerful part of showing up for someone?
Okay. So working at Thrive is a hospital violence interventions program where we deal with youth injured by violence age 14 to 29. So walking through the hospital doors or the room and coming bedside to tend to a youth that's potentially injured from violence like GSWs, like gunshot wounds, stabbings, or anything like that. It means a lot to me because I know like when they see me, the familiar face, how far it goes, So usually when I even offer the program to the youth at that time, they're even like, because it's so new, they're like, what? There's a program like this? Like somebody's there for me during these times. So it's a rewarding feeling, and it's like it's more times we're looking at a brother, because it's so familiar. Unfortunately, that's the case, but fortunately, I could be there for a brother, so that means a lot for me.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, go right ahead, man. Go right ahead.
I think we should have a conversation. You know what I mean? What do you think? You're a fan. Anywho, I want to acknowledge something you said, my friend, which is very, very true. And it may come across like I'm pushing back, but I'm not. Okay, but I'm going to call myself out. Okay? So I'm a sociologist, and I'm also an anthropologist, culture anthropologist. And I can say for certain there is research. Okay? But hear me out. But the problem is our Black scholars do not provide the research to community which is accessible. That's where the problem is. Okay? I think as someone who sits in the ivory tower, which is i.e. the university, we need to be better and proactive and working in partnership with community more than what we do, okay? Because we have the knowledge, we have the resources, and we have the opportunity and the funding to do this work. This is the reality. So I'm calling out us black scholars. This is just what it is, okay? The problem, again, is that once you enter white spaces, you then perform white. Right?
Tell him.
Because folks, here's the thing, right? Welcome to Lecture 101. I'm raising your social capital purposely. And the reason I'm doing this is because when you leave these doors, you should be empowered enough and you have the language and the articulation to then speak to these ideas in a fluent and a more coherent way. Not because Warren said it. It's because we're all having a conversation. I'm not picking on you because I like you. I'm picking on you because I'm empowering you. There's a difference. I like you. Okay? So this is where the concern is when it comes to research, right? We have our black community members stretched way too thin. Let me ask you guys a question. How many hours do youth program leaders work per day? Who wants to answer that question? 45 hours a day? A day. 16. Who here says 7? 7.5? Show of hands. Folks, I did a study in 2015, and the black community youth workers I worked with were pulling about 20 hours a day in communities such as Jane and Finch, Driftwood, Malvern. And you're probably asking yourself, well, where do they sleep? Well, thank God for technology, because when a young person needs help, they're on their texting, or back then BBM, BlackBerry Messenger. So when you're stressing a worker out, you're increasing their labor enough where they can't see the gaps enough. And then you're asking a youth worker respectfully, right? Youth worker, all right? Then to do the work of a scholar, while us scholars work behind the desk and getting X amount of money and we're not giving back to community. Community needs to call us out. This is what it is. But we should be, as scholars, we should be working in solidarity with black communities to say, you know what, you're right. Let's work together. Now, there are great scholars. For instance, did you know about Warren Clarke before today? Now you know me. So you should be reaching out to me. And if you're not, then I don't, and then, hold on, don't clap. No, don't clap, because you didn't do anything yet. You should be emailing me. Warren, I got this idea. Warren, I'm holding you accountable what you said. You said that on stage. Put me to the test. I'm a scholar. Put me to the test. Pardon? See? Pardon me? You can get it after. All right. Can't stop the train. We're on fire right now. Don't you see people coming through the door sitting down now? This is what it is. You want to stop the train? You can't stop. I'll give it to you after. All right? I'm serious, right? We have to learn how to work together, all of us. I am very privileged. It's true. But it doesn't mean I ain't from the hood. And you wouldn't know that unless I tell you. So, I want to work with you. Can we work together? Do some research? I got a research project happening right now, so we're going to connect. There we go.
Thank you. All right, so Solitair. As someone who's seen in the industry and the streets, what advice would you give to a young artist who's trying to stay real without repeating cycles that they're trying to escape?
The easy questions, huh? Okay.
I got you, Dora.
What is real? What is your reality? What are you trying to leave behind for? Who's your audience? What is it that you're trying to say? I've been I was born in the 1900s. I don't know how many people are.
It's not that old.
This whole idea of, keeping it real, when you're actually find most artists are trying to emulate what's successful. you're being influenced because there's a lot of stimuli out there that's telling you the chains, the clothes, the women, the cars, the trappings of success. So the question is, what is real to you? You know, to be an artist is to talk, is to reveal your inner voice. Like, and everybody has a different purpose as an artist. I say, you know, anytime an artist comes up to me, aspiring artist says, I just want to be heard, I just want to be famous, I'm not interested, because you could do anything to be famous nowadays. You could do anything. You take off your clothes and run down Young and Dundas, you'll be famous. You shoot that on a video, put it on Instagram, you could be famous. But I more so have a conversation with them, like, what is it that you're actually trying to say? Because if you can't articulate what your purpose is, what your message is, then what is real to you, you know? So as an artist, I'm always trying to find that person who's going to be able to say things that maybe they don't think is popular. Maybe it's not popular right now. Maybe it's not the in thing right now. But anytime the industry has changed, anytime an artist breaks through and becomes an iconic artist, it's usually because they're adding something that doesn't exist. So I always try to push artists to find what that is. And the reality of it is that, you know, there's not a lot of people who have that drive in them to find that. You know, it's easy to emulate what is already successful. So I don't have any judgment. I always try to offer perspective and not try to channel people's direction, because ultimately not everybody's cut out to be artists, and that's another real thing too. There's an allure to being famous and being on a stage and having fans, and, you know, like, people know your name. If that's what you aspire to, that's not really artistry. You just want to be famous. You know, when you're talking about music and actually saying something, which is something that I grew up, our generation had, you know, we had gangster rap, but we had conscious rap, we had party rap, we had so many different, and everybody coexisted in the same space because that was the culture. Nowadays, success is its own culture, you know. Elitism is its own culture. This whole idea of capitalism, you know, unfettered materialism, is really what's driving force behind a lot of what these people are aspiring to. They don't want to be artists, they just want to have the trappings of success. So I really try to get people to tap in on who they are as an artist and what is your message that you're actually trying to convey. And would you do it if you weren't getting paid? Because that's going to determine whether or not you have the discipline to repeat and be consistent and stay true to your message. So, and the reality of it is, if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. So it's an easy question to ask. It's a much harder question to answer. But I usually try to inspire more questions about what is your purpose of being an artist.
Like that. That's a good way to put it. Give him a round of applause. Round of applause. I have a question, or if anybody has a follow-up towards the question. Yeah. So, Mr. Clarke, you spent years walking along.
Just Warren, please.
Oh.
Too many formalities. I can't.
Warren. So you spent years walking alongside young people, not just in classrooms, but in the real world where systems fail and stereotypes weigh heavy. He's created spaces where Black youth can be seen as scholars, leaders, and more than statistics. So I want to ask, when the system keeps labeling our youth before listening to them, how do you help them reclaim their voice and their future?
Well, I like this question. Thank you. You know, in my experience working with a lot of young people, particularly young Black men, the one thing is giving them the language to speak on certain topics or subject matters where they know how to articulate themselves. That's been one gift that I've been very humbled and honored to provide to a lot of young men, young people, young Black people. You know, for example, everybody getting an argumentation, not an argument, an argumentation. They're two different things. Are we okay? Okay, I thought I was talking too much. If I'm talking too much, let me know. You laughed. So there's another fan. There we go. You're not the only one. Anywho, have you been in an argumentation with someone and the first thing you do is react? You start saying something. Anybody, show of hands real quick. Yeah? Okay, I'm gonna pick on the MC. Why do you do that? Natural instinct, okay? Can you say that one more time? So let me ask you a question. How did you understand or learn that to be a natural instinct? Yeah. I appreciate that. I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. So when did you realize it was natural for you? Okay. So then it's not natural. It was socially constructed, it normalized, and it gave this understanding of natural because you've been doing it. You've practiced. Correct? But it's not natural. Okay, and thanks for being vulnerable with us. I appreciate you. And that's where the concern is. We've naturalized certain behaviors. Okay? We react when we have a moment to think. So meaning, you can control a situation. Want to try? Let's try it together. Nigel, because I see you. So Nigel and I are going to argue. Not, I love you. All right, good. We're going to argue. All right, we're going to argue about the Knicks and Pacers going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay, stop it. Okay, stop. All right, so Nigel, you like the Knicks and I like the Pacers. Here we go. Go ahead. You know, I really appreciate that. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, interesting. Can I ask you a question? When did you start liking the Pacers? Today. Interesting. So you started liking the Pacers today, and sorry, I'm confused. You like the Pacers or Knicks? Oh, you're Knicks. Oh, it was my fault. My apologies. Right. But before I give you my response, I want to ask you a follow-up question here, so I can seek to understand and see where you're. If you're really a Knicks fan, because I see you wearing the colors and all. But folks, let me take a time. What am I doing? Who said that? Why is that important? And also, clarity, you're understanding their truth, not the truth. There's a difference there. But you're becoming informed. Once you become informed, you gather a lot of knowledge, then you could respond. Now think about when you were in school or when you're at work, and for whatever reason, your boss, who happens to be white, is sitting there calm, and you're like, this motherfucker. And they're just like, so, Julie, let me ask you this question. And you're like, stop with the effing question. Let's just go back and forth already. You've normalized that behavior, many of you. And in normalizing that behavior, it's particularly someone who's gathering information and they know how to respond based on what you're saying, they then control the conversation. So when you're able to inform yourself, particularly back to the question, when I have the opportunity to work with young people to slow conversations down, gather more information before you respond, you'll be more empowered. And when you're more empowered, then you can articulate yourself with the information that's relevant to the conversation. Because if you're asking questions of the person who's sending the message, do you know some people don't even know what the hell they're talking about?
100%.
Some people are looking and they tell you their gospel and they're like, yeah, eat this gospel, eat it, take it, yeah. And they themselves don't even know where they haven't got that information themselves. For example, why are you wearing green today? Where'd you get that idea from? That's impossible. Because everything on this sun is historical, and everything that you came to this earth and learning. So where'd you love green from? In human existence. You came to this world knowing about green? When you came to this world as a baby, you came to this world knowing about green. Oh, but you just said, you see? You just said it came from you. Nothing that you know came from, even the words that are coming from me didn't come from me. You know where it came from? Literature, reading, being a mentee. So if this is true, and you understand where knowledge comes from, then you understand your limitations of ignorance. And once you understand that you're ignorant to something, then that makes you powerful. That makes you dangerous. So I just gave you some knowledge yet again.
All right, thank you. So I have one more question. It'll be for the both of you guys. So if there's a young person sitting here today feeling unseen, unheard, or like they're not enough, what's something you'd want them to hear from you right now, from where you stand and everything you lived?
Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another day, and you gotta dig deep sometimes, you know? Sometimes in this journey, you gotta dig deep. And one thing I like to tell people is, you know, there's a saying that they say, hurt people, but you could transform that, you know, and hurt people, help people. So sometimes even
100%.
when you're in the darkest closet and you might feel like your whole surrounding is like all the same, sometimes that's how it be in the hood, it be in the place sometimes, you know. You might think that like there's no way, like you're just drowning, the crab in the bucket mentality, but just understand that there's always like a little silver lining, you know. You could always be heard or be seen, you know. You just gotta just think about the next day, one step at a time.
I start by saying something like, no matter how hurt you are or how you feel right now, I bet you if you look in the world, there's someone around that will change your problems with you. And what you're going through, you're probably not the first person, and you're not probably the only person going through it right now. So, you know, you have to look and talk and reach out, or even if it's not even someone that's beyond your circle, just talk to even if you're talking to your friend, you know, and then you'll find familiarity in knowing that you're not the only one going through things, and you don't personalize it as much, you know? You realize that other people went through it and they came over it, you know? That's what I would do.
Yeah, okay, give it up. All right, so I think we're a little pressed for time. I want everybody to thank everybody up here. Thank you for Andrew for creating this panelist, you know? Leverage is life, and yeah,
Hey,
that's it.
crack Bonzel. For what? He's getting released today. Oh, shit. Serious? Here we go again. They locked me down for some past years. That's why my rhymes vivid. Freedom is a must now. When you believe in them